Hi guys, back again for another mind blow. How are you, Harry? It's late over
Doing
there, isn't it?
doing well. It's a little bit late, but you know what? It's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Who cares? We might be joined by James if he's awake, but it'll be to give you an idea. It's 2:30 in the afternoon where I am, and it's 11:30 the previous night where Harry is, and it's 7:30 the same day as me, where James is. So if he's up, hopefully he'll jump in. But what I want to start with is this little PPT that I just threw together. It's only like 10 slides, um, and we're starting off with obviously if anybody's not seen this, they must be living under a rock. You know what's been going on in the over there
Suez.
in this canal, yeah. Um, and what a lot of people don't realise is, for some reason, they don't realise that Suez is the reverse. If you write Suez in reverse, you get Zeus, Zeus, yeah,
Yeah, they blocked Zeus's canal.
yeah. And then I found I can't make this big for some reason. It won't go big. Um, but this apparently is from the book, which we all know about, the Great Reset, and it's actually talking here about blocking the Suez Canal. You know, you can't make this up.
Predictive programming at its best.
Yeah, yeah. This one I thought was funny. We can't find anything wrong with you, so
Yeah, we
yeah.
got it.
Some people are making some great memes, and this one made me laugh out loud as well. You know, probably not, probably best if we don't read it. I mean, people can read it for themselves, but again, that made me laugh.
Who's the biggest liar on that
Yeah,
slide?
absolutely, absolutely. Um, this one, I forget where I found this one, but again, uh, very true. And this one got some great laughs when I posted this. Um, yeah, I mean, if anybody is aware, I mean, come on. And
Yeah, he's been peddling those things from the very beginning.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, you've got to look at the programming, the predictive programming. I mean, it's right there in front of your face. You know what I mean? From all those years ago. Um,
Mhm.
this one again tickled me. They've cancelled April Fool's Day.
Yeah, why would we have a special day? We've been fooled. We're being trying to be fooled for almost over a year now.
Absolutely, absolutely. And a friend of mine put this up on one of their social media accounts. I'm not going to mention it, but it's owned by a guy whose name sounds like sucking a turd. Or anyway, he put this up, and it was immediately taken down because some uh, fact checkers um, said that it's not real. And then we'll finish with this one, which again was quite poignant. Um, you come naked, you will go back naked. Well, you guys can read it. You can read it for yourselves. But why do we waste so much time on uselessness? I guess is the question that many people ask. But as I was saying to you before we started recording, I'm in the process of reading Matt's book, Matt from Quantum of Conscience. There's not a lot that I in there that I don't already know, but I find it interesting in reading how Matt lays it out. A lot
Yeah,
of what is in his book, I've written about in my books, but a classic example of something quite early on. in the book that just jumped out and punched me on the nose, bro. It was so powerful. We always think about, us versus them. Yeah, this fight, this war for your soul, us versus them, or you versus them. And what Matt wrote was, no, it's you versus you. And I saw that and I went, wow. Matt spends a lot of time talking about, because he's dealing with, this book is aimed for people on all different levels of awareness or awokeness or lateness, whatever you want to call it. And he goes into great lengths about talking about the media, TV, movies, school, all the programming that we go through. And it reminded me of the old, I forget where it came from. We all heard that old cliche about having the devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other shoulder, talking, one's giving you this information, the other's giving you that. And the way that Mark puts it over, he puts it over so brilliantly, is that we inherently know this, right? We know what is true, but we're fed this other information that's coming in to our ears. So then you get to a point where it literally does become you versus you. It's not you versus the TV or you versus them. It's what you inherently know, opposed to the information that we're being fed, essentially what we're taking in. So it really does, at the basic level, essentially mean it's you versus you. Nobody else can share your journey in the same way that you personally. We can share the journey up to a point, but even if there's a group of us sharing the journey, walking the same path, we're all having our own individual experiences. So only we can do that for ourselves. So I thought that was extremely profound, especially when you think about it on the levels that I've just talked about. What do you think about that, Harry?
Yeah. Well, yeah. On previous podcasts, we've talked about how in this sun moon matrix, the sun being the death and the moon being the rebirth. We've already broken the code that we're not here. We're here multiple times until we learn that lesson of love, right? So when we talk about the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other, and that inner struggle that we have between ourselves, it's really not. It's really the struggle of what we knew from that previous existence, the lessons we learned, and then through drinking the waters of Lethe, or Plato's river of forgetfulness, we struggle to remember those thoughts. And then at the same time, we're being bombarded by these external forms of information that we're being indoctrinated with. And our inner standing knows the truth, like you said, but we're being beaten down by these false narratives, like that story about the evergreen blocking the canal. They're doing a ritual. Someone's doing a ritual to make something happen for the billionaires to profit. And if we have that sense of remembering, we'll know that this is just another one of their false stories. And we can tell. It's just, who wants to know? Some people are just very comfortable in not knowing, and they just go with narrative.
Yeah, I agree. And I read also, I'm not sure if it was Matt, but it probably was, because I've spent a few hours reading his book to yet. And it was, we're not, we talk about unindoctrinating ourselves and unlearning and relearning. And I don't think it is a case of relearning. I think what's happening is, I think we're actually remembering. This is why a lot of this stuff, it resonates with that inner knowing. We just, you just know something's right, or something's not right. Yeah. And if it's not right, you reject it until you know what what is right. The problem that we seem to see, one of the problems that Matt also talks about in his book, and his book was written a couple of years ago. He's updated it, but he's some of the stuff he started writing, or he quotes to 2019, is that a lot of people in our community still subscribe to the white hat, black hat, left left and right paradigm. You know, it's going to come back and save us and so on and so forth. They're doing this, and they're doing that. Well, at the end of the day, it's all bullshit. All of it. It's two wings on the same bird. You know what I mean? They're just actually just playing. You know what I mean? You look at every single hero, right? In whatever genre, whether it's, you know, if people are religious, they're Jesus. You've got Satan. You've got Sherlock Holmes. You've got Moriarty. You've got Batman. You've got the Joker. You could the list goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
It's always the goody and the baddie. Yeah.
Yeah, it's that hero story. It's a repeat every single time. There's a struggle, there's a hero, there's a villain, and somehow, some way, the hero ends up winning. It's the same story reworded and rewritten for the modern audience.
Well, it's the analogy of God wins in the end, I suppose, because the guy always wins. But you know, the whole thing. I'm swinging more and more towards the simulation theory, the hologram, the video game, the movie. I mean, I mentioned in a previous podcast, and I'll say it again for those that haven't watched the one we did on number 13, that there was a flu epidemic that came out of China and went all over the world in 1830, 1831. Now, if you just go online, go to PubMed, the magazine PubMed, and you'll find it in there. Flu epidemic from 1830-31. Happens to be exactly 190 years ago. In numerology or gematria, the zero means nothing. So again, we've got that
19.
So it's just repetitive. It's repeating.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like everything's on a cycle. And this brings us back to what we were talking about over our last few podcasts. We are repeating. We die, we're born. We die, we're born. The avatar is just that. My body. Think about that. Well, who am I? Yeah. When I'm talking about me, I'm talking about my soul, my spirit. This is my body. The avatar, the car that the spirit or the soul, whatever you want to call it, is driving. You know, and again, Matt goes into great detail about he kind of relates the body to a car insofar as you're driving an automatic car, you're going up an incline, you put your foot on the gas, the car does the rest, right? The transmission will decide, the car will decide if it's going to drop down a gear to get you up the hill, right? Yes. You turn the wheel and the car goes wherever you steer it. Well, think about your body. How many things do we have control over in our body? We don't control our heartbeat. We don't control our breathing. We don't control, you know, the speed that our fingernails and toenails grow at, or our hair, or anything when you actually break it all down. It's absolutely amazing, and it's incredible the way that he does this analogy between, you know, it's difficult to explain, between, you know, my body. We've all heard my body, my choice. Fine, but your body's not making the choice. You are making the choice on behalf of your body, because your body is your vehicle.
But like you said, a lot of those functions are already happening. So yeah, we are, in essence, we're already AI. We're artificial, and we're being placed in that vehicle to just move us around, because that AI entity that calls itself God has an agenda, and that agenda uses us as the battery for energizing it. So Yeah, I mean, I think like you always say, this is just the car we're driving. That car is a junker. We're going to trade it in and come back with a new model. And it's not by our choice. If we can learn to love and not go to the light, like we've been talking about the last few casts, we can escape this and jump over eight, which is infinite, and get into the broken eight. And this is a comment that I saw on our last one. The broken eight is really a nine because you take a piece of that eight off and then you got a nine.
Yeah.
And that's perfection.
Yeah. And the seven's also a one. You know, when we were talking about 13, L, right? Flip it. Yeah. L being God, if you flip, you write down L, flip it, you get 13.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that Matt talks about is this realm being hijacked. I think he said 3,000 years, but I think we all know it's a lot less than that. A few hundred.
Oh, a lot less. Yeah.
It's interesting that I mean, he doesn't do any. I don't think he's done much biblical research. He certainly doesn't talk about it much in his book. He hasn't decoded it like you and I have decoded it. But it's interesting that he also subscribes to the fact that this whole realm was hijacked a few hundred years ago prior to that, you know, which would have been in what we know or what we call the Tartarian era, with free energy and, you know, everything, you know, all the things that went with that. Golden Age, and we've shown that. We've quoted many different sources from many ancient books that really are not so ancient. This whole realm was hijacked, and it's right there in the Bible. If you haven't, guys watching this, if you haven't seen the full breakdown, go over to Jen's channel. It's called the Truth Seek 69 Original, and go back. It's about 3 weeks. It's a 3-hour podcast with it's just Truth Seeker 69, and you'll see the Devil's Playground too. And I do a full breakdown. We should do that again, I think, Harry, here. It starts at 10 minutes and it runs for about 40 minutes. We are getting, you know, the channel's growing. We are picking up new subs. So maybe next week we'll do, I'll represent that here because it was 3 hours. So I didn't, at the time I couldn't put it on this channel because I was limited to half an hour. But now we've got past that. Rather than put the 3 hours on there, we'll redo it for you guys. And as I say, I can probably get it down to half an hour, 40 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
Literally, how the Bible, once you understand how it's all been mixed up and the deception, and there's certain parts of the Bible, once we tie it all together and we just use biblical text, nothing else, no opinion, just logic and biblical text that puts the whole thing in order, which actually demonstrates that the Bible itself tells us that this realm was hijacked. By who? By the God known as Yahweh. Destroyed the earth, rebuilt it. The biblical creation in Genesis 1 is a recreation. And we can demonstrate that. We can't prove it. We can't prove it because we weren't there. But the evidence that we got, the evidence that we use from the Bible, actually shows and tells that whole story. And then you get people who say, oh yeah, but Nigel, you know, the Bible's the whole thing's BS. Well, yeah, we can argue that too. But my point being that if we use a bit of common sense, or not so common sense these days, Harry, and we put the story in the correct order, then we would ask the question, well, if it's not true, why was it all jumbled up? Why have we been deceived in the way that we've been deceived?
Oh yeah, the way they've changed the order is just like getting a text from your friend, and the text message is scrambled, right? Like the first message is last, the second message in the middle, and the first message is in a different spot. You try to read the message back and forth, and you can't make sense of it. If you put it in the right order, then you can understand what the sequence of events are really happening. And you know, if you read it symbolically too, you'll understand that, It's not telling you that this character was that one guy and that this thing happened just one time. It's repeating the same stories over and over again. But if you put them in the right order and you understand the symbolism, you understand what they're truly trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of words in there too, like when you hear the word "verily, verily, I say unto you." What are they telling you? They're talking about springtime. They're talking about the vernal equinox. They're giving you clues about when they're talking about. It's not just an affirmative that they're emphasizing something. That's also a function, but they're talking about a season.
Yeah, well, I think verily, verily also translates into truly, truly. Yeah, the double emphatic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But once you translate it, you lose the verily, and the verily is talking about the vernal, and that's the most important aspect of the occulted version or understanding of what the King James Bible has done to so many of their readers. They have lost touch with nature, so they don't understand what they're reading.
No. Couple of points to add there that we've spoke about before. We know they added 1,000 years in 1592. The King James authorized, remember that word, guys, authorized version came out in 1611, which would have been the year 611 had they not added the 1,000 years. Well, if you write down 611 and turn it upside down, don't forget, dates can be written month date or date month. So it's totally reversible. I'll say that again. Remove the 1,000 from 1611, becomes 611, 611. 180 degrees. Turn it on 180 degrees. So again, that's another little trap. But yeah, I mean, what you say now is perfectly true. I mean, it's a regular thing in class, in my classes. I write out sentences, prepare sentences, maybe on a PPT or whatever, jumble the words up, right? And the kids have got to put the words in the correct order. And that's definitely what's been done in the Bible. And we found it, we've proven it, we've shown it, we've demonstrated it, and it's irrefutable in my opinion. When we look at this world and we look outside and we see what's going on around the whole plane, then it's obvious that a negative force. I mean, isn't there something? Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. Do you remember that? I can't remember which passage it comes from, but the verse springs to mind. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth. Well, again, for people that out there that have looked at Tartaria, looked at the mud flood, and understand what a lot of us refer to as the golden age of Tartaria, with all these magnificent buildings all over the world that we can't build today. We don't have the technology, we don't have the instruments, we don't have the tools, we haven't got a clue how they would do. So to go from that to this, or to what we're living in now, or what we've been living in for the last 200-300 years, kind of brings that quote to life. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth.
Yeah, and then if you look at woe to the inhabitants, one channel I was watching just a couple of days ago was comparing a caged tiger to the typical American sitting at home now because he can't go out, and how much weight they've gained and how unhealthy they've gotten. So that correlation between the zoo and that animal who can't be free to roam and run and hunt is the same as the person who used to live out in the country, who was doing the hard work and not being able to sweat and exercise and do that hard work. Now we're living in a metropolis, which is no more different than a zoo, right? Caged animal.
And don't forget, you can go and get your free daily Krispy Kreme donut. Yum. Yeah. Just to make you even more.
So, in the city dwelling is just like being in a zoo.
Yeah. And there was another connection. I haven't done a lot of work on it up to yet, but you know about the cube. Saturn's
Yeah.
cube, the cube of Neptune, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
I think it was Casey into the stars, but somebody else has mentioned it as well, that we live in one. We live in a cube. We walk out of our cube, we get in our cube, and we drive to our cube, our office, our work, our classroom, whatever it is. So we're going from cube, we're getting in a cube, driving in a cube to get to our work, and then we get in the cube and we come home. So that again was also, I thought was also quite profound.
And you know, and maybe we can expand on this in another show, that the cube is really a three-dimensional hexagon, right? If you look at it from a 3D perspective, a cube is a hexagon. And what is a hexagon? But it's the hive setup, like in a beehive. Yeah. So we're in a hive mind. We're being forced to be subservient to a queen. Almost.
And of course, an unfolded cube becomes a cross.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, everything's connected. It's all connected to the system, and the system it's one system, right? With many tentacles. I mean, David Icke's been talking about this for years, and for many years when he started, I mean, I thought the guy was a complete nutter. Not so many people are thinking that these days, but he's been talking about this for a very long time. Don't agree with him on everything. I think he did a great presentation before it was on YouTube. You won't find it now because it's gone, but he did an awesome presentation on Saturn. Right, and he spoke for about an hour, and the first 30 minutes or so was absolutely intriguing, was brilliant, fantastic. Then he started talking on about the Cassini spacecraft going off to Saturn, and I'm like, off. So I mean, and this is something that we say to everybody. Eat the meat and spit out the bones, or eat the fruit and spit out the pits.
That last book he wrote was one that I enjoyed. Everything you always wanted to know, but were never told. Something like that.
Yeah. And then he's written another one called The Answer. Yeah. Now, if anybody, I mean, Matt's given me permission to, the permission is in the book. So if anybody wants it, let me know. Drop me an email. If you go to, it's NIGEWZ1, number 1, okay? NIGEWZ1 at the Gmail. If you flick me an email, I'll send you Matt's book, because this is information that a lot of people, even people in what we call our community, don't know. I mean, it's 600 and some odd pages, 642 pages, I think. So it's not something that you're going to sit down and read, in an evening. And the pages are quite long. I'm up to page 120, I think, 118, 120. And I'm.
119.
It could be. I don't know, but somewhere 118, 119. But the point I'm making is it's taken me 3 hours to read 120 pages. So at 640 pages, it's not a 5-minute read, but it's got some cracking information in there. And there's stuff in there that people can show to their family and friends who are maybe a little bit wakey, but people who are so still comatose. I mean, there's a couple of guys that I know online who just won't look at anything. Right? No. They can't wait to get there. So those people are never ever going to come around ever. You know what I mean? It's just never going to happen. And another site that I've joined is Zach's Free to Find Truth.
Okay.
There's a lot of good. It's not a lot of it's geometric based, but there's a lot of other stuff being posted on there. And if you just type, you don't even have to type in the full name, just the number 2, FT, and you'll find it. It's all free to join, free to log in. Everything. It's a community of essentially like-minded people. So that's something else I'm gonna recommend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Zach's always got a lot of good information. He's got things that are current events, yet he can go all the way back, and look at how they tie into things that have happened, hundreds of years ago. So
yeah, he's just lost his 21st channel. He's now on his 22nd channel. Zach. What I like about him, we spoke about this before offline. What I like about Zach is it's either black or it's white. There's no grey area with him at all, right? And to be honest, there shouldn't be with any of us. As you said before we started recording, that people are told to go and do their own research. Well, again, that's something that we're learning is not to be trusted, because where are you going to go and research? The Snopes, or it's got a Wikidecivia, as I like to call it.
Yeah. You got it right here.
Yeah. Discernment.
If it sounds wrong,
it's wrong.
It probably is. If they're telling you you're spinning at 600 miles an hour, I don't feel like I'm moving. So
I mean, 1,000 miles an hour, isn't it?
1,000. Yeah, 1,000 miles an hour. Yeah, we're not.
Yeah. And we're hurtling through space at 66,600 miles an hour. Okay. We're tilted at 23.4 degrees, which is 66.6 degrees from the
90. Yeah.
Let's not even go there. So if anybody wants Matt's book, flip me an email, and I'll happily send it out to you. So anything else you want to add, Harry? It doesn't look like James is going to be joining us, but we'll give him a bit more notice next time.
Yeah, I think it was kind of short notice and time for not enough time to maybe clear the schedule.
Well, I think if he's not read my email, he's thinking that we're on for 7:30 p.m. So the time difference is just they fry my brain. They really do. They really do. So anything you want to add, Harry, before we close?
No, I just was kind of looking back at one of the podcasts we did about the phi and the plants and the trees, and someone just was mentioning how trees are like an apple, like a toroid, and the top of the tree and the bottom of the tree is the as above, so below, and it was covering again something that you mentioned about the takeover of when the golden age of man and the blue bloods kind of coalesced, and what it does, it creates the Vesica Pisces in between the two intersections of the two realms, and that's that toroidal field. In the symbol or the logo for the iPhone, that Vesica Pisces we know is the bite that's taken out of the apple, right? And then that bite is put on top of the apple like a leaf in the symbol.
Yeah.
And what I want to share next time is the two pictures of the apple inverted. When you bring them together, it gives you that face of like a skull face of the ram.
Yep.
With the horns and the two eyes. So you've probably seen it.
Yeah. All done by design. But it's funny, you talk of trees. This is just coming to my head. But if anybody wants to Google it just for a bit of fun, type in the boab tree, B-O-A-B. Okay. Literally, it's found in Australia, in the Kimberley region in Australia. I don't know if it's found anywhere else in the world. I don't think it is, but I could be wrong. But it literally looks like somebody's picked up the tree, pulled it out the ground, turned it upside down, and shoved it back in.
Yeah.
Because the branches of the tree look more like roots than they do branches of the actual tree. Yeah, it's called a boab, B-O-A-B. Just throwing it out there. Yeah, weird.
Yeah. So I just was reminded about the trees again today based on what we already covered. So we might want to revisit that, just kind of update it a little bit, and we can touch on that next time.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and we will see you next time.